Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Campfire Conversations, where we have quick leadership lessons, conversations that are guaranteed to lead to transformation. And we talk about the valleys and the peaks and how they're all connected. Today, we're going to talk about shoulder to shoulder, walking with you through some of the journeys. And today, I want to talk about the gap between your style and your intent. The gap between your style and your intent. See, we judge most people based off of their actions, and we judge ourselves off of our intent. And if that's true, then people are judging us by our actions. So I want to ask you, are you modeling what you're expecting others to model? Or are you just leading by your title? And so the first question that I want to ask y'all, and I'm going to give you guys some context, is, well, let me back up for a second. This all came up because Stephen Covey is friends of ours, and he talks about the style and the intent so much. He talks about a trust and inspire leadership style versus a command and control. And I think all of us have a little bit of both in us, and it's our choice. And I was talking to Stephen before he came to our kickoff, and I said, "Hey, how'd your dad do it? Like, not how did he make the life that he did, but how did he just influence and inspire people?" And he said, "My dad was the same man on and off stage. In fact, if anything, you got the better man off stage." And he said he worked every day to make sure that the gap between his style and his intent was close. And when he made a mistake or when he wasn't who he wanted to be, he always went back and cleaned it up. And that's what a true trust and inspire leader is, somebody who breaks trust constantly and is always willing to rebuild it, who's always leading you with humility. And so the question that I have is, how do you close the gap between your style and your intent? And for me, I was thinking through this, and I asked more questions than giving direction. I think that's where my gap gets the biggest, is when I lead with direction. I'm so excited. I'm impatient. You could even consider myself anxious to see the results. And so I start giving direction. And that's a more command and control leadership style. When I close the gap, I listen more than I talk, and I ask for feedback. But before you ask for feedback, you got to create a space for honest feedback. So you got to earn that honest feedback through your character and commitment to leading others. And I've always been one to keep my commitments. And Matt and Brad, y'all know this about me. Very rarely do I not keep a commitment, but if I miss it, it's because it was not out of intention. And I quickly want to recover that. And I think the last way for me to close my gap between my style and my intent is starting with me. We talk about the fingers, one finger pointing out and three back at you. I mean, you've got to be able to know yourself. You got to know everything about you, from the conversations you're having in your head to just all the growth and mentorship that I'm receiving. And so for me, closing that gap requires people to help me with my blind spots. And y'all both have been part of closing or actually revealing some blind spots, so that way I can close that gap. And so I want to talk just quickly about the difference between your style and your intent, and how do you close it? How do y'all lead? Matt or Brad, what do y'all think?
Go ahead, Brad. Let's hear it.
Robert, I think you hit on some really, really good things. You gotta figure out what it's like to be on the other side of the conversation from you. Like when you shared some thoughts and notes ahead of this chat, and like I can relate to that. Being on the other side of me is, I want to knee jerk and change directions because I have 3 new great ideas, every time I have a quiet moment. And I think you gotta have trust with people in a way that you can get that honest feedback. What is it like? How does it make you when every time we talk, I want to do this or do that? So I think that's a big one, is knowing yourself, and humility. So I think you nailed it. I don't have anything like really wise to add to that, but I think it's right on the money.
Yeah, your best mentor is your future self, because you're most likely willing to take advice from the person you trust the most, which should be you. And so getting clarity and everything like that. Matt, I know that you lead a lot of people, and man, for those who know you, your intensity is very consistent. And I mean, I remember meeting you in Nashville. I mean, we knew of each other, but boy, the slap on the back for the hug still
It
hurts.
was on the butt.
Whatever it
That was
was,
just a
Matt,
little love tap.
whatever it was, this is, I mean, you were a woo, but when you get to know you, man, oh my gosh, you are an intentional leader. And sometimes people might misinterpret your passion. So what about you? How do you close that gap? When you've got 170, 180 employees who all need something different out of you.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's crazy. Today we had one of those days, and it was so if you know me very well, I'm very purpose driven, meaning we do things with intention. And my circle on my Monday morning meetings, 452 of them in a row, is incredibly important to me. That circle is really good. And today I lost my head. I literally flipped my mic on, shut the music off, and I said, "What in the hell are we doing? If we can't get this circle right in an environment that we are controlling underneath a roof that we've done 450 sometimes, how are we going to load our trailer right?" It starts with the basics. It starts with that circle. And that circle is so incredibly important because I need them to understand that we have to start with the fullest cut possible. Now I know I'm going off a little bit of the style and the intent, but my style is very passionate, and my intent is to make sure that you know that I can go from 0 to 60 and back to 0. So, but it was great. I will tell you that we did have a young man that his insulin pump wasn't working, and he passed out during the meeting. We invited a state trooper, Nebraska State Patrolman, in to give us an inspection on some trailers. We invited him into our house, and he's the guy that writes us the most tickets in our hometown that I yelled at the other day for giving us too many tickets. And then our circle was a mess. So like I got hit with the trifecta of stress in this meeting, and I went a little bit off, and I'm sure that I upset some people, but I also finished it with this. I only want to surround myself with people that want to win as bad as I do. And you don't understand how important it is to me to be excellent, or to at least make sure we're moving that way. Striving excellence isn't the goal, but that's what we're trying to reach, is excellence. And Robert, I did it to you the other day. I dropped an F-bomb on you, and I said, "Don't mess this up." And I think you got a sense of what it's like to really work with me under my direction. And sometimes my leadership is so direct and so to the point that I forget that I have to come back and say, and by the way, did you notice after your mastermind that you did, I sent you some loving texts saying, "Dude, best one you've ever done. I'm so proud of you. You did great." I used to forget that a lot, but I'm narrowing that gap of making sure that I'm following up with the support. And I hope it felt good that you were like, "All right, I nailed it." My boss, I'm not your boss, but in that case, I was hiring you on behalf of the fence group to make sure that we were excellent. And I want it done right. And Brad, you've worked with me. You've seen me get intense, but what you don't always see is the follow-up that I do with my people afterwards to make sure that that gap's very narrow, that I'm being intentional, that I'm coming to you and saying, "Hey, I support you, and I only want the best for you." And if you don't want the best for you, then maybe you're not the best to be in my world. Just go somewhere else, because this place is different. We want to be different. We want to be elite. I will tell you, Robert, winning the Contractor of the Year award from the AFA was bigger to me than most people will ever understand, because I've went through the list of companies that I look up to on there, and that's the kind of caliber of people I want to be. So with that being said, that's kind of my style and my intent, and I do believe I've done a better job. Now, if I can go rogue just for 1 second,
Yeah.
I had somebody close to me say the other day, "Do you think you're trustworthy?" I really had to think about that because I believe that that's different levels for everybody to be trustworthy. There's a lot of people out there that are trustworthy, but it's how you measure yourself whether you truly are trustworthy. How do you look at yourself, your future self? If your future self is going to tell you, you shouldn't have missed that meeting in Oklahoma City, then you probably aren't as trustworthy because you're not making the moves you should make to take care of the people and to honor them. Now you did something that was outstanding. You went and saw a friend in need just to show up. And that's who you want to be. So your future self is going to say, hey, well done. Now, I often will say, hey, someday I just want to stand in the pearly gates and I want JC to be able to say, hey, dude, look at all you did. But I sure as heck don't want him to say to me, look what you could have done. I don't want that. And that's what motivates me. Now, I don't think that my level of trust is where I want it. And I'm working really hard internally on that to make sure that I show up for people, to make sure that I'm being a modeling trustworthy person with a very narrow gap. Is that fair?
Yeah, that is. You said about 10 podcasts in there. Let me try and recap a few of those for everyone listening. I think the reason why you can talk straight with me, one is you've earned that seat at the table. Our relationship has been strengthened. That probably isn't what you would have said on day one. You know that I would respond while I'm competitive. You know that I'm a D on the disc, and so you can just be direct. While the gap might be smaller between your style and your intent for me, it might be even greater for an S who needs some more stability and needs to be warmed up per se. And so I think that adds another layer of complexity when we're talking about your style and your intent, is because you got to understand the other people's style too to be able to close the gap. So we've got a couple things. You know, my wall back here is purple, and I say, how are you showing up when you're not around? And so if you walk into my new office, I mean, we've got stuff all over the wall to get our backs when our style and our intent don't match. You know, we believe who we are, and every once in a while we're allowed to have a growth day. And so we have our significant statement to remind those that maybe we have hurt, or maybe we're hurting ourselves, that we're going to serve $1 million and give $1 million. Or we have comfortable chairs to remind people, hey, we're going to take a little extra care of you, even on the days that it doesn't seem like it. Or we have desks that make sense, or computers that turn on, or vehicles that get people safely. So we have a lot of, call it props, or a lot of things to catch us. You know, why are the walls so black and white in people's offices, but yet we want people to stand out and be full of color? And so we've done a lot there. But then the last piece, the part that I wanted to park on for a second, you were talking about the Monday morning meeting, and what a perfect example. So your style and your intent. So our intent to have these Monday morning meetings, after you showed us how to probably have them, is to the Knights of the Round Table, to build community and to show people that, hey, we're all going to start together. What's interesting is that we have not really gained much traction. So our style looked very similar to yours, but we were missing a piece. And I'll get to that in a second. We were missing a piece, but our intent was exactly like yours. We want to share some sort of lesson to help people grow. We want to show people that we're investing. And most importantly, we want to at least have one time a week to start the day with everyone. So here's the part that we were missing that was messing up our style. We didn't have fun with it before it started. I walk in this morning, I kid you not, I'm not even through the door, and I just happened to bring my son. And there's this crazy music jamming, and I'm like, oh, hell yeah. And I walk, I can't hear myself think. My son's like, play Freebird. Your style and your intent got closer. We wanted to love people, and we wanted to have fun with people, and boom, we did it. Turned off the music. Dude, we had the best Monday. I don't even know what we said, but I know that everyone had fun. And then that rolled over to every single meeting, because Monday's typically our meeting day or our huddle day. And so the style in which we started met our intent, which was we just want to have fun together. At the end of the day, we just want to have fun together. And so it's amazing how small little tweaks will close that gap. And so thank you. You poured into Matt Swalick, and he came back. And while I know there was a lot of other great things for him to take away, can you imagine? He just walked in and said, "This can and should be fun," because that was the whole intent in the first place.
Right.
So great job, buddy. Great
I
job.
love it.
Brad, you've been to these Monday meetings. Boy, this guy jams some music, huh?
Oh yeah.
So I also know that when he turns the music off, that it's worth listening next, right?
So that all those little things are cues to add up the difference. And I also believe sometimes, and we're going down several little trails here, but hopefully people can take nuggets home with them and apply them. But I also know that we want to make sure we're starting on the best foot every Monday, because the whole week it can be a mess, man. You got rain, you've got dealing with big contractors with Kiewit and Turner and JE. Like, these guys are massive companies that we have to be ready to battle with. And if we can start with some consistency and some support and confidence, next week, one of my things is I'm going to tell everybody, pull those shoulders back, lift that head up. Let's get that testosterone going. Let's make sure we're ready to battle. And that's going to be next week's message, which we're already working on, because we're constantly trying to make everybody better. It's good, man.
I love it. Now, Brad, you're leading a team, and you're full of ideas. And when I think about you and the season you're in, I think about where my style got in the way of my intent. And I'm going to share my story real quick, and maybe you can walk us home. So I was thinking about, when I was preparing for this, where's my style got in the way of my intent more than ever before. And I think about 5 years ago, I was sitting in a huddle, and I had a facilitator, and he said, "Robert, you're only allowed 10 big ideas a year." Now, I don't do very well when people tell me what to do, but I said, "Hey, I've hired this person as a mentor." And what I ended up doing was I burned through those 10 ideas in the first month, and then I hid the other ideas from people until I executed them. So then that way I could prove that those ideas were worthy. The challenge was that the gap between where I left people and where I went was so big, it was hard to get to. And so then what happened was I was frustrated and impatient, because I was like, "What do you mean? I did all this without you, and I want you to be proud of me." And what I was trying to show people was the reason why I have ideas is because I believe in an abundance mindset. I believe that there's a better way of doing things. There are more ways to doing it. And Matt, we were talking positive possibilities. I believe that there's a positive change that's going to happen if we continue to come up with ideas. And what was interesting, 5 years ago, we didn't live nearly as much of a disruptive world as we do today. And so if you're not willing to embrace change, you're not willing to share ideas, I want to go back and say 10 ideas, maybe a day. Now, I need to be very careful, though, and here's where my style and my intent got really mixed up, is that I would typically, and I didn't know I was doing it, but I would typically go to the weakest in the room and get them on board. Well, they had no influence over the rest of the room, but I won it in masses. Majority vote wins, right? This is pre-Stephen Covey. I would command and control, probably led with fear. Didn't know I was doing it because I didn't have the tools that I know now. But after reading Trust and Inspire, I realized that you first need to have these ideas with the people who have the most influence. And so Dakota and I would show up every quarterly meeting and be like, "I'm tired of change. I don't want change." I'm like, "We hadn't changed in like 90, 180, 270. When are we going to change?" And I started resenting my own company. And so I finally met him where he was, and I was like, "What do you not understand about change that's so exciting?" And what he couldn't figure out was our vision. He had no clue where his fingerprints were on the blueprint that we were creating. He understood that I wanted change, but he didn't know why we wanted change. And so I had to show him those positive possibilities. I had to show him the potential that we had. And so I talk about Dakota a lot because he met me in the comfort zone, and I was ready to get out, and I was going to the growth zone. And he has met me there, and we're walking shoulder to shoulder, having a ton of fun. And so anyways, I just wanted to share that. And so that's where my style and my intent got in the way of things. And now everyone else is having 10 ideas a week. And so it's been a blast, Brad. And so I don't know if you can, because you're probably full of ideas and everyone's like, Brad, stop working on the business. Let's work in it for a while. But you know the positive possibilities ahead of us because you've seen where people have walked. So maybe you can tie a bow on this and we can walk this thing home real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to share an observation.
Yeah.
I've had the privilege of attending a bunch of Monday morning meetings, and even in the few years that I've known you, Matt, I've watched an unbelievable amount of change and growth at what is today the Crown Companies.
Yes,
I think there's something I've observed in this that maybe is worth calling out. I've never seen a business start as many new businesses and execute as many ideas as you do, Matt. At the same time, you also have a knack for beating the same drum consistently over time. And it's not without intention. And that's what we've been talking about in this conversation. The Monday morning meeting is intentional, but beating that drum year in and year out creates trust. It closes the gap so that the massive change can happen, because things change so fast over there, but you give somebody something to stand on. So I think that, like, it's not change or not change. Robert, and you're talking about, like, with Dakota, I have something that, you know, really, and you didn't use these words, I'm just going to use them, meeting people where they are. You got to meet people where they are. And the difference between someone like you or I, and Matt's the same way, you have more bigger ideas than even we do sometimes, probably a lot of times. A lot of people have to hear those many, many times before it clicks for them like it might for you or I. Like, in our head, it all makes sense. We see it, and we say it, and we don't see why they don't see it. But meeting people where they are, and whether that is getting their feedback or repeating what's important week in and week out. You know, for me, one of the things I did, because I recognized that with a few people around me, like, they're bought into what I'm doing. And so if I want to do something, we don't have a culture yet where they can stop me.
Right.
So instead, I've made some commitments, and we were kind of setting, like, how are we executing for the next several months? How are we working through the rest of the year? And I laid down some promises. Here's what's on the table, but here's a bigger list of things that I promise to not try to make us do, and we'll revisit them next year. So that was a way that I was closing my style and my intent. Because what I want them to know is, like, hey, I know there's only a handful of us. We can only execute so fast. Just because it's in my head doesn't mean we can do it yet.
Wow.
So I'm not going to put this on you yet.
Wow. Well done.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was really good, Brad.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. I heard this the other day, and you just made me think of it, Brad. Don't rush the process. Trust the process. If you skip steps, you won't even be able to stay where you're going very long. And so I love what you said there, Brad. And but if you don't speak the ideas, then people might not think you have a vision. And so as long as we speak those ideas and we close the gap on where they're at, like, what's in it for me, you know, where do I fit into that vision? Because, you know, Chris Robinson said, if you can be done alone, it's too small. And so those ideas need to be able to connect the dots on where those people are. And so the people who are listening, these are short leadership lessons and talks. But if you guys want to go shoulder to shoulder and you want to work through a riddle, we'd love to help you grow before you go. Every Tuesday at 6 a.m., the show airs, but we are recording these things, and we'd love to help you solve your gap and help you gain.